So I'm truly excited to be taking this this talk today on detox, and and we've been talking about detox for so long, and we've been looking at the various aspects of detox. And we've looked at the physical health aspect of detox, but today we want to talk about the emotional health aspect of detox. And as I said, this is my comfort zone. This is an area I'm very excited about because of its impact even on the physical health we've been talking about. So without wasting time, we have a lot to cover. I'm going to introduce my co-host today, and that is Paulett Lawrence. She is a gem, and she's going to be dissecting this with me. So Paulett, glad to have you. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Are you excited about today?
Always excited when I'm talking about family of origin.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to dive right into this. And let me start by sharing my screen and looking at the PowerPoint as we have people continue to join. So I'm going to share my screen here, and we are going to dive into this. Okay, sorry, I dived in. Wonderful. Paulett, so let me just give a background for those that have been joining. You know me. I have my PhD in mental health counseling, and I have certification in Christian sex therapy, and I also have the opportunity to train in different approaches to dealing with emotional and mental health issues. Currently, I'm doing a second doctorate in chiropractic and focusing on functional neurology. And all of this is for me to look at a holistic approach to healing. Paulett is an amazing, she does amazing work in inner healing and just helping people. And that's why I wanted her to be on this with me. And she maybe also share from some of her work and just help people to heal emotionally. So we are going to start by looking at a few scenarios, and you will let me know if anything is if this is clear. Okay, let me see. Let me take this out of the way. And so I'm going to start with some scenarios. So so let's look at scenario 1. Sorry, this is scenario 2. What happened to scenario 1? Give me a minute. Okay, scenario 1. Kate came into therapy with her 10 years old daughter who was refusing to talk to her because of her impending divorce. She's very angry with her mother. Okay, somebody needs to mute themselves. Okay, yeah. I have someone moving things around. Wow. Topper, can you please check and mute anybody that is unmuted? Okay. Please, can you always check for me and just get people muted if they're unmuted unknowingly? Okay, so she's very angry with her mother for not remaining in the marriage, and the mother wants their relationship to improve. During the counseling session, it was discovered that Kate was also brought into therapy at the age of 10 for very similar situation. Her mother was divorcing Kate's father, and Kate was very angry with her mother. Although she came into therapy, she never forgave her mother for divorcing her father. How do you think this has impacted her relationship and the fact that she's getting divorced almost at the same age her mother did? And also having similar experience with her daughter. What could be responsible for this? And how does unforgiveness control our destiny? So scenario 1, you've heard it. Kate came in with her daughter. Her daughter is angry with her, does not want to talk to her because she is divorcing the father. And then Doing counseling, it was discovered that Kate also came into counseling at the same age, brought in by her mother for the same reason. And she was so angry with her mother, she never forgave her mother. A couple of years later, maybe 15 years later, she is bringing her daughter in for the same situation. What do you think is going on here? How does unforgiveness impact this? Let's go to the next scenario. Scenario 2. Mrs. Johnson is in her 60s and she's not happy. She has these uncontrollable fits of anger. She has spent time in prayer. She's prayed and prayed and prayed. But this is one area that she has not been able to resolve. It has affected her relationships, and people generally tend to stay away from her. She's very nice, almost to a fault, but when she gets angry, she seems to lose control. In counseling, she discovered that she was still angry with her mother for abandoning her for another man and leaving her with her father. Even when her mother died, she refused to go to her funeral. She never imagined that her unresolved anger, towards her mother could be due to the fact that she never forgave her, that her unresolved anger could be due to the fact that she never forgave her mother. How could this be related? So this is scenario 2. Mrs. Johnson, beautiful woman, lovely woman. She's, she helps everybody everywhere. But she discovered that when she gets angry, she destroys relationships. She destroys things. She has prayed and tried everything, but nothing seems to work. And then one day she decided to go in for counseling. And as she was being talked to by somebody like Paulett, who does inner healing, and as she was being talked to, it was discovered that she had issues with her mother, who abandoned the family and ran away with another man. And even on her funeral, she didn't go because she was still angry. And then we found out that she had this long-standing anger. How does this relate to the fact that she has unresolved anger? Scenario 3, Bola is sick, of always feeling sick. It has been one health issue after another. It has gotten worse since after the breakup of her relationship with Tunde. She cannot bring herself to think or process what Tunde did to her. Why would someone be so mean to her? She thought her life would be better than her mother's life. What may be going on here? What is the thing that is common? What is the common trend in all of these people? One thing that is common that we are talking about, remember today's talk is emotional baggage, emotional detox, our history, our family of origin, the things that we are coming, that we grew up with. How are they affecting us today and our relationships today and where we are today? And so we are starting our journey looking at family of origin. The thing that is common, Bola said she thought her situation would be better than that of her mother. The other person, her mother did something that affected her life. So how are all this related? So Miss Paulett, can you dive into, tell us how all these are related as you look at family of origin and how we do relationships based on our family of origin?
Right. So one of the things that you notice in the scenarios that we just covered is a pattern, right? It seems as if there's a replication or a duplication of behaviors and emotional responses, right? So where does that come from? When we talk about family of origin, what we're talking about really is the environment in which you grew up, right? So family of origin could be parents, could be biological parents, it could be grandparents, it could be foster parents, whatever environment you grew up in. So if you think about family of origin, think of yourself as a seed being planted in a soil, right? And that seed planted in a particular soil will grasp the nutrients and absorb the things that are in that soil. This is what a family of origin is like. Whatever environment you're in, you're going to grasp what's in that environment. So how the caretakers respond to emotions, you learn that. How they communicate, you learn that. How they make decisions, you learn based off of that. Money, finances, the traditions, these are the things that you learn, boundaries or no boundaries. Those are the things that you learn within the environment. And whatever is happening in that environment emotionally and however that family deals with it, that's what you learn. Even though your thinking is saying it wasn't right, the reality of it is that that was what you were learning, and that's what's shaping you coming forward. So that's a simplistic way, or a simplistic way of putting it. There's a lot more that goes into that. So in this, we say the type of family, the values, the beliefs, sibling interactions. It's kind of what you learn. It's what begins to shape you. It shapes your beliefs about yourself, about people, about relationships, and about the world at large, right? It gets encoded in your DNA. Oftentimes, as you're learning, right, to you, whatever you're learning, however you're responding, if you have an angry parent, you're going to learn to respond to the way that they do, right? Oftentimes, these dynamics seem right. It seems normal to you. You won't know the difference unless something else is introduced into that. So for one of the examples, unforgiveness, when things happen, or unforgiveness or anger outbursts, when things happen in your life at an early age and your response is anger, it's really a secondary response to an initial response. It could be that the first response is going to be hurt and pain. You're going to feel ashamed or embarrassed. But the way that you show that is through anger. And you learn how to do that throughout the developmental stage, through each part of your growing up. And that's what you carry with you into adulthood.
And you know, Paulette, I like the fact that you said something that we are unaware. And that is where the challenge is. And that is why one of the things we are going to be looking at today is self-awareness, because that is really the big part of it. Because, you know, because this is how we grew up. This is what it is. It's just like saying that what is intertwined in your DNA is faulty, is wrong. You know, how can you really see it and know it, except, you know, you choose to walk in the path of self-awareness. So now, how does this family of origin, because we see that looking at scenario 3, we see that in her selection, she seems to be having relationship problems similar to what her mother had. Remember the scenario 3, where she was like, you know, I thought my situation would be different from my parent. So how does FOO affect intimate partner selection, Paulette?
So when we talk about relationships, it's interesting because we're talking about family of origin, but if you look at family of origin, right, remember that we learn to do what we see modeled in front of us, right? If we look at her mom that responded in the same way and the same thing happened, right? If we were to do an examination of even the mother's family, we probably would see similar patterns. And those patterns and way of responding emotionally, right? That forms generational patterns, right? From one generation to the next. The thing that, when we talk about early development within the family, there's a thing that is called attachment. And basically what we're talking about when we talk about attachment is how we are attuned or how we are in sync with our children. Okay, so a baby that's born up to maybe 1, 2 years, 3 years, they rely on their brain isn't developed. They're not logical or anything. They're attuned to the parent. And at that stage, based on the responsiveness of the parent or lack of responsiveness of the parent, it's going to start creating a sense of security or insecurity with that child. Okay, so it leaves them predisposed to unhealthy responses. But if the parent is attentive or attuned to the child, i.e., when they're crying, to see if they're fed, to change them when they're wet, to respond to their needs, to say, I'm here. What it does is create a secure environment so that emotionally, they begin to learn how to regulate from an internal perspective, how to handle the emotions. Because if an emotion, if there is a need and it's met emotionally, it creates to a sense of security, a sense of trust from that child to that parent. It creates that symbiotic relationship. There's
So
an
what you're
absence of,
saying, so what you are saying in essence is that when as infants, when our needs are not met, when we cry and nobody listens, nobody attends to us, what it creates is a sense of insecurity, is a sense of I'm alone in this world. Nobody really cares for me. Nobody is going to help me. So I
right.
need to do my own thing. I cannot depend on anybody, because that was what was taught me as a child by the fact that I was abandoned. You know, when some of us are left at home or in the care of nannies, and you cry all day and the nanny is not interested or nobody's there to attend to you, you kind of, in a way, formulate a belief system in which, do you know what? Nobody really is here for me. Nobody cares. I'm alone. And you carry that belief system into adulthood. And as you're saying, that might be even a multi-generational pattern in which that is how everybody from generation is parenting, and we enter into our life, our relationships, and our expectations based on that.
Yeah, the attachment is about learning how you relate to your partner, and how you learn to relate to your family of origin is how you're going to relate to your intimate partners or other relationships as an adult, right? So when we talk about there are different types, and Dr. Kuyinu touched on some of it. The anxious attachment typically occurs when a person with an anxious attachment is someone with a negative view of themselves. So they put themselves down, they don't see themselves as worthwhile, and then the other person is all that, right? So that they're full of attention, they're like on a pedestal, right? And they're constantly seeking some kind of validation from that person. Because they're not secure within themselves, their world is based on the other person's world, right? Constantly seeks validation, and they're always anxious. They experience high anxiety because at the back of their mind is like, I've got to do everything to keep you so you don't leave me. So they will do things like caretaking, or they have this overdeveloped sense of responsibility, wherein that every need you have, if you sneeze, they're going to run and bring something to wipe your nose, right? They're going to go out and do whatever it is that they think they need to do to keep you, because at the back of their mind, the fear is abandonment. They don't want you to leave. And that typically happens when you have a parent that's there sometimes and not there sometimes, or comes in and they're like, okay, 1 minute, and then they're upset the next. A child in that type of environment will often try to figure out what's happening and try to adjust themselves or behave in a manner or do certain things that they think is pleasing to the parent so that they would be happy, right?
And you know, sometimes we really get attracted to such people initially because, I mean, they are so nice at caregiving, you know, but then when we begin to live with them, when we live together, it kind of wears you out. When you turn your head, they are there. What can I do for you? When you know, and then so it then becomes problematic. It looks attractive initially when we are dating, that this person is all over you, is interested in you, but then it becomes problematic when you have to live with that anxiety. So talk about fearful avoidant.
Right. So someone who is disorganized or fearful avoidant, that person has difficulty trusting or relying on someone else. They tend to be defensive. So on one hand, they're kind of pushing you away because they don't know if they can trust you with their emotions. And then on the other hand, they want a closeness, they want intimacy, but they don't know how to do that, right? So it's kind of like fearful. So it's a push and pull. An avoidant dismissive personality.
Before you go to the avoidance, let me just, as you were saying, I thought of a perfect example. Fearful avoidant are people that, you know, they were never sure of what they are getting from their parent. So today their parent is laughing with them, tomorrow the parent is hitting them, and so for almost the same thing. So they are like, so they have no, they don't know how to, identify when you are pleased and when you are not pleased with me. So they are very tentative in relationships because they really don't know what to expect. And,
Right.
and that can be tough. So for the dismissive.
Now, the avoidant dismissive personality is this person who says, like in early childhood, they can't rely on the parent, right? So they make a decisions like, hey, I don't know if I can trust you. I don't know where you're coming from. So you know what? I don't need you. So they learn to develop this sense of independence. I don't need anything from you. And so, because they're emotionally protecting themselves. And so they grow up as an adult with this type of, they present with this type of strong personality, right? Can be dismissive because their belief is that, I don't need anyone to complete me, right? So they have this kind of stalwart type. Go back to that previous slide for me, Doctor. Yeah. They have this kind of stalwart relationship and they avoid emotional closeness and will oftentimes suppress their feelings, right? So when you're involved with someone who is avoidant dismissive, it can be really difficult if you want closeness or you want intimacy, and they will do things, but it doesn't matter if you're there or not. That's what they present. Okay. So when it comes to relating, right, and love language, it can be, when we talk about the love language, if we're coming from a secure relationship or a healthy or functional family of origin, it can work the way it's designed to, like receiving gifts, acts of service, words of affirmation, physical touch, and quality time. However, if we're from a dysfunctional or unhealthy family of origin, it can be used invertedly, right? So receiving gifts. When we talk about a love language and your partner, their love language is receiving gifts, right? When you give gifts, it conveys the idea that the person is important and thought of. But if you're coming from a family of origin where you didn't learn that, right? You can be using that gifts as a way of buying attention, right? Remember we talked about caretaking. You can use that in a manipulative way, right? Same with acts of service. That love, someone who has a love language of acts of service, showing love by doing something positive. Again, that can be used as a way of trying to keep
I'm sorry about that. Somebody unmuted. Yeah. Tokwe, can you please help to regulate this? When you find someone unmuted, can you just mute the person? Thank you. Okay. Yeah.
Right. The other love language is words of affirmation, which is about saying positive things to each other or encouraging the other person, let them know who you are. Physical touch, cuddling, touching, holding hands, quality time, spending time together, being present and engaged. These are love languages that if you know what your partner's love language is or your love language is, and you communicate it, and it's reciprocated in a healthy way, then the ability to do that is going to be tied back into how you learn to do it in your family of origin. So understanding the love language of our family of origin teaches us who we are and how we receive and give love. So when we talk about family of origin, we look at ourselves as adults. Ask yourself the question, what love language did you see within your family of origin? And what love language do you have? And how is that conveyed? And how are you looking at your partner in terms of their love language, right? If you're unable to hit any of those 5 love languages in the way that it's intended, and you find yourself using it more in a manipulative way or controlling way or a buying way, then you have to go back to your family of origin and look at the dynamics in that. Because one of the things about this session is about really bringing insight into the types of emotions you have, whether it's toxic or not, and then learning how to address that or unlearn the toxic ones so that you can move forward in a healthier manner.
Thank you. Someone has been raising his hand. Please, can you allow us to talk more before we start taking questions? I've seen that you've been raising your hand. Can you just give us some more time and then we'll take questions? Thank you.
Or maybe put it in the chat.
Yes, can you type your question in the chat before we can start unmuting and having people talk? Okay, thank you. So Paulett talked about love language, and you know, we looked at all this: receiving gifts, act of service. All these are love languages that, you know, make for connection. This is how we connect. We give gift, we receive gift, act of service, our kindness, what we do for people, encouraging them, and physical touch. But based on our family of origin, we are going to see that different people, some people will never give gifts, you know, because in their family of origin, they, you know, that wasn't what was really happening. They don't share, they don't do birthdays, they don't do, and it's not, there's nothing wrong with not doing birthdays, you know, I mean, but it's whatever is in your family of origin, you bring into your relationships. You also find some people in their family of origin, act of service is not something that people do. They are very independent. We don't do things for each other. You do your own thing. So when you come into relationships, you bring the same thing into your relationship, and you are wondering why the other person, and sometimes because we lack one thing, we are attracted to people of the opposite. So I might not have act of service, then I see a girl or a guy with so much act of service, and I'm going, oh, I never saw this, and I become attracted to it, and I get married to that person. But the problem is that the love language I give is what I'm expecting. So if I'm giving act of service, you know, that is what I'm expecting, I'm wanting, and so I want it. But then you got attracted to me because of that act of service, but you don't have it. And so when we come together, I'm giving it, but I'm not able to get it back from you because you don't know how to give it. And you find it begin to create problems in relationship. There are some people, physical touch, they never touch in their family of origin. And so they enter into a relationship with somebody that likes touching. And they just like, they're attracted to the fact that this person just touches things everywhere. But then they get married and the person wants to touch them and they feel completely irritated. They can't take it because that was not how they rolled in their family of origin. And so understanding this and understanding how this can destroy relationships, because you are going, don't touch me, I don't want you to touch me. And then this other person is saying, but this is who I am. You are denying who I am. And so let's look more at how do we help this and how do we walk around this? Because life is all about connection. Life is about relationship. We cannot exist outside relationships. We cannot exist outside connections. And so as we grow, there's this thing I hear people say, this is who I am, you know. No, life is not about this is who I am. Life is about, there's one thing that is constant in life, and that is change. And so understanding yourself, you know, helps with change. There's a theories that I love, I studied a lot in counseling, and I like the way it talks about human being. And I'm going to talk a bit about that. And then we are going to look about self-awareness, and I'll show you a little video of me doing counseling with someone who has a family of origin issue. In this theory called holistic theory, it says that humans are viewed as unified organism. No parts of your experience is more important than the other. Your feelings, thoughts, sensations, dreams, behavior, they are all important in understanding the individual. You know, we have sometimes said, okay, you know, we have divided individuals sometimes and not giving attention to feelings, thoughts, even bodily sensations. All these are things that make you and make how you relate and how you react in different fields. Another theory by this theory is that really I like that, you know, help me to understand things, is that a person's experience is influenced by your environment, just like we have been saying, you know, and this is also known as field. Understanding a person requires that one understand the context and influence of the person's experiences. In the field theory, people cannot take note of that. Cannot be understood without understanding the field or the context in which they live. And you know, in my culture, in those days, when people are supposed to get married, they will say, let's go and study the family. Let's go. Nowadays, we don't do that anymore. We feel we just, you know, James and Sarah meet together at church. They like each other. You know, they feel that they are alone in this world. They have no family of origin. They hook up, they get married, and then problem starts.
But what's interesting about that is that they're still bringing the family of origin into the marriage, whether they're aware of it or not.
Whether they're aware of it or not. Very true, Paulett. You bring it in. You cannot not bring it in, you know. But then we are not bothering to look, to investigate, to say, let me get to know, you know, the field, the environment, in order to better understand you and better understand how you are going to roll, how you are going to do money, how you are going to do parenting, how you are going to do friendship. All of that, I get a lot of that information by studying you in the context of the family that you are part of. Then the star talks about, you know, how dysfunctionality happens. It says that it talks about boundaries. We are all involved in boundaries. You know, we are in contact with our environment. Boundaries are contacting boundaries. And this is the point where it is I, thou, me, and what is not me, and where they meet. So the way we connect with our family of origin and the boundaries we have in that connection is going to impact the way we are going to form boundaries with other relationships in future. So Gestalt now talked about when boundaries are disturbed in family of origin. It is what Paulett also talked about in attachment. This is another way of looking at it, maybe a more uniform, you know, just a little bit different. Gestalt said there are 5 different ways that your family of origin impacts your boundaries, which can then impact how you do relationship. So when the boundaries in your family of origin is impacted, you know, there are these disturbance patterns. One, introjection. Introjection is someone that indiscriminately swallow or accept the views and values of others without reflection or clarification. In your family of origin, you know, it's like, this is everybody, you know, you have been taught, what I say goes. You don't think, you don't question. This is how everybody must behave. And you have been tailored like that for over 20 or 30 years. And so you come into a relationship expecting people to tell you what to do, expecting people to direct you, you've not been given the opportunity to think and analyze things by yourself. And you bring this into your family of origin, you bring this into relationship. Another thing that people do is projection. This is the reverse of introjection, which means you make the environment responsible for what originates in yourself. You have people that grew up in an environment where you blame others, you know. If you, you know, this makes me laugh, you know. If you know, I used to remember my mom, we're in the kitchen and maybe something she's cooking and then she caught something by mistake. She will turn around and blame you for not being close by for the mistake. And we do that a lot, in which we get so upset for the mistake we make, but we turn around and blame somebody else for the mistake, even if they are 10 miles away. We can say because they didn't come early enough, that was why we made the mistake we make. That is projection. You have retroflexion, in which you do unto yourself what you want to do to others, because you are not bold enough to do it and to, you know, to them. So you find individuals engage in self-mutilation. They attack themselves because they want to attack somebody else, but they are not able to do it. They now turn it within themselves and they do it to themselves. And then you have deflection, people that go around in circles. You know, you want to say something, but you're not able to say it. You just, because you don't want to be criticized. You don't want to be put down. You just keep going around in circles. And then you have finally confluence, when the individual has no boundary at all. We have met people that have no boundaries. When, you know, they come to you, they are touching you, they are, you know, I mean, it's like this is the first time they are meeting you. They are saying things to you that, you know, it's just too personal. because they grew up in an environment where there were no boundaries. Just like I said, we are all, a product of the environment that we were brought up in. How do we change unproductive behavior, through changing beliefs? This first step to change existing defeating belief is becoming cognizant of the fact they exist. So the first step is realizing that I have one of these. There's nobody that came out of a perfect family of origin. We all have one of those things. We all have either introjection, deflection, projection. I had, sometimes we even have more than one of them. There's none of us that is free of any one of those things that we have talked about. The first step to healthy relationship and developing yourself in life is being true to yourself. Is saying, what do I have? Do I project? And when things happen to me, I blame others for it. I don't take responsibility. Do I just take everything people say to me, hook, line, and sinker? We call those people naive. Do I mutilate myself? Do what I want to do to others? Do I do it to myself because I'm not bold enough to challenge them? Or do I not just have boundaries? The first step is, who am I? Who am I? I used to pray a prayer, God, show me. It's a journey. And so the first step is to finding who we are, taking stock of our actions and reactions is a clear window into our belief system. Evaluating our actions, thoughts, and asking what and why is behind these choices. Why am I always making these choices? Why am I always choosing this kind of men or this kind of woman? Why am I, somebody reached out to somebody and said, this is the third time I've been in a relationship where so is happening to me. I cannot just assume that it's, all those people are bad. There must be a way I'm contributing to pulling this kind of people towards me. Why am I always pulling to me people that batter women? Why am I always pulling to me, people that cheat and are deceptive? What is it? It's important that we start to evaluate ourselves in the light of the relationship we find, the patterns we find, patterns. We must look at patterns in our lives and stop, it's important that we stop blaming others for patterns. We look at patterns. Yes, Paulett.
I think a good question to ask to begin that process of identifying patterns is to ask yourself, why am I doing what am I doing? Why am I doing what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm.
Look to the motive on it. Because oftentimes getting to the belief takes a little bit of work. And sometimes you may not be able to get to the underlying belief, which is what drives the patterns, right? Because when your belief is negative, it drives the way you think, it drives the way you see situations in your life. And those beliefs are tied into your feelings. And then you act based on those. So unpacking that at times requires some help with someone else who can see into you to help you pull that out. But I think a good question to ask yourself is, why am I doing what am I doing? And why do I keep doing that? And that will start showing you the patterns that Dr. Kuyinu is talking about.
Beautiful. Thank you for that, Paulett. As I said, this is my comfort zone. I love talking about this because I personally have been on a journey of self-awareness because, I packed a lot. I had a lot of baggage. So that's why I'm not afraid to challenge you because I've been there. I'm still there. I'm still walking through dealing with unpacking my baggage. I had lots of them. I would say I had almost all of them. And so I know what it feels to move and to try to be free. And so step one, awareness. Awareness is crucial in creating positive, awareness is crucial once somebody comes in. Awareness is the ability to sense and identify your feelings, along with the ability to understand and evaluate them, to be aware of, your feeling is to first identify them, just like Paulett says, that identify Why are you doing what you are doing? And it is very essential to achieving success with relationship. We cannot be successful in relationship. We cannot be intimate. There are many people that have been married for years. They don't know each other. People have not gotten through to who they are. They've never really been vulnerable to their partner to the point of true intimacy. And we cannot reach true intimacy if we don't know ourselves, if we are not aware of why we do what we do. And so that is number one. Individuals who have high self-awareness are able to conduct accurate self-appraisals, are authentic, they welcome feedback, they are not reactive. Some of us, we cannot endure feedback. Once people challenge us or criticize us, we go on a Monroe's tangent. I used to be like that in the past. You are criticized and your head, you feel depressed all day. It's important that in self-awareness, increasing self-awareness, we look at ourselves objectively, and in another word, we are true to ourselves. And one way, I like this Johari's window that talks about self-awareness. It says that self-awareness is in 4 quadrants: open, blind, hidden, unknown. The open quadrants represent things that you know about yourself and others know about you. Like my name, you know my name, I know my name. I live in Atlanta right now, I know I'm female. I hope so. So there are things that that I know. The next part is the blind spot. The blind quadrant represent things that you know about me, but that I am unaware of. There are things that you might, and you need to reduce that. And that is where self-awareness, and we'll talk about how to reduce that. There are things that you know about me that I might not even know about myself, and we are going, what? Yes. And how do you find this out? One way I have tried to find this out is I sit and ask, when 3 or 4 people keep saying the same thing about me, say that this is how they experience me. When I ask people, how do you experience me? What do you think about me? Getting positive feedback. And then if I find out 4 or 5 people or 3 or 4 people are saying similar things that I wasn't even aware that was what I was portraying without meaning to portray, then I go back and say, wow, so why am I portraying this? The third one is the hidden contracts, represent things that I know about myself that you do not know about me. There are many things that I know about myself that you don't know about me. That is hidden. And you may never know about me till the day I die. There are spouses that might never know things about their spouse till the day they die. I mean, we see that all the time. When after someone died, they say, oh, this person was this. And then the unknown quadrants represent things that neither I know about myself nor you know about me. This is a dangerous part. The only person that can show us this is God. Where I don't know, you don't know, but they are there. They are there. And that is why I have, after learning this, there's a prayer, a secret prayer I'm going to share with you that I pray. I say, God, show me me. Show me me, show me me, Lord. Show me me. Let me know that part that nobody knows that I don't know, but which is very important to my development, which is very important to me to become the woman you have made me to be. God, show me me. It's a powerful prayer. Pray that prayer as often as you can and say, Lord, show me me. And God answers our prayers. We gain knowledge.
In that area, if we go back to family of origin, right? Oftentimes, depending on our environment that we grew up in, if it was toxic, we make vows and judgments at that early stage that over time, as we grow up, we forget. It becomes unknown to us because it was so long, and we may have said it in passing. But the thing is that thing is still in operation throughout our development stage into our adult life. And we forget about it. And it is in that unknown area that thing exists until God starts bringing that up.
Yeah. There are many unknown, yes, things that we had, we even say, just like the woman, for instance, the woman that her mother she was having issues with unforgiveness, anger, not unforgiveness, anger. And she never knew. It was hidden. It was unknown to her. She never knew that the reason why she was having the issue with anger was because she had allowed anger into her heart. as a result of her anger towards her mother. So anger towards her mother that was unresolved allowed anger to take a seat in her life. And so anger became Lord and Master, and she could not have control. She didn't know until she was in her 60s, until when it was revealed to her, and she was like, oh my goodness, this anger towards my mother at 10 is what is impacting anger towards others at 60 till I'm 60 years old.
Yeah.
It has followed me, almost marred my relationship. So that's an example of things that are unknown that needs to be known. We gained knowledge about ourselves by receiving feedback. Let's not be afraid of feedback. Let's be honest about our, getting feedback from our spouses, sitting with them and telling your children, go home after this and call your children and say, you guys, be honest with me. How do you see me? I did a pastor's conference, and I told the pastors to go home, sit their children down and their wife down and say, how do you experience me? When they came back the next day, they were amazed. They said, thank you. That is the most powerful assignment you have given us. Because many of us have always been afraid to ask people because of what we think we might hear. But it is very powerful to go back to people that are important in your life and ask them, how do you experience me? I know that people experience me as a tax master, and yeah, I'm trying to change that. Ask people, don't be defensive when people say, this is how we experience you. This is how you come across to us. And that opens up your quadrant of awareness. Mindfulness habits also aid in self-awareness, increasing vulnerability by asking friends and colleagues to describe us and give constructive feedback. Mindfulness is sitting back, like Paulett said, and going and just asking yourself, why did I do what I did? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why is this pattern? Sitting back and, taking a moment, not rushing through life, like I'm rushing through right now. And just taking a moment to reflect on why certain things. Lock up yourself somewhere. Take time out. In the morning, just ask yourself, why is this pattern? Don't always think, what are people doing to me? Start with yourself. What am I doing to maintain this pattern in my life? Also, the law of repetition increases self-awareness. When you find a good behavior, continue to repeat it. Continue to repeat it, because there's something, even though you are coming with all this information from your family of origin and a testimonial to that, things change. It takes time, because it took time for those patterns to form. It's not going to change in one day. But if you keep doing it, doing that same thing, initially it might be frustrating, but as you continue repeating that same healthy pattern, new patterns, it eventually begins to replace the patterns. For some of us, it might be so difficult that, we are having a lot of problems, doing it by ourselves. Please seek counseling. I have gone, one of the most amazing experience I had in even finding out some of my patterns was when I sat in counseling with somebody else who challenged me. Some of us have never, you think the only time to seek counseling is if you are sick or if you have mental problem. No. Counseling empowers you. Counseling strengthens you. Counseling, sitting with someone that knows what they are doing and, have, the heart, helps you. And so some of us might need to seek counseling. And then sometimes we are going to be having, and I'll talk more about this at the end, emotional detox group. Some of us sometimes just need to get involved, attend a group workshop, attend a group that helps. So before I take questions, and this is also an extended session, so for those that we are going to spend a little more time, so because I don't want to rush over this, I'm going to take questions. I want to quickly show us a video. I will stop sharing this, of someone, for you to understand what I'm saying, of someone that I worked with who, hold on, let me see if I can share this. I have to stop past recording to be able to share this. Give me a moment.
Talking to a person who is presenting in front of an authority, you're talking to a 6-year-old, and the belief system is in terms of value or worth. And that belief system is hidden, but it's in operation throughout her adult life. So if she keeps thinking, I'm not worth anything, or I'm not valuable, or what I have to say is not important, right? Those are examples of belief system. That's really what's in operation, but it's not conscious to her. It's something that's hidden, but it still drives how she filters, how she sees things, how she interacts with people. And that's what we have to get to, the awareness of what our belief systems are, and then to relearn, to unlearn that negative belief system and come into some truth. It's the lies that we believe that keeps driving our behaviors or lack of behaviors.
Yes. You know, so you can imagine she was stuck at the age of 6 in her belief system in that area, that she never moved on in her fear of authorities. She never moved on from the age of 6. Every time she was standing in front of a professor, she was back to 6 years old. She was an adult in other things. She was grown up, but in that area, she was a 6 years old. Can you imagine how many of us are married to people that are stuck at the age of 6 in certain areas of their lives? And we cannot seem to understand why they will not behave in a mature manner. And or we have friends that are stuck at a certain age in their belief and in their mentality. And we are wondering, why is this person so childish? But the person really needs help, because that woman, without that moment of sitting with her and having that conversation, for the next 20 years, she might have continued in that regard. But when we sat down and we talked about it, what we did was to bring it to our awareness. And then, you know, she now knew what she needed to work on. She realized that, okay, there was a problem here. And she needed to, and I didn't show you the video. We actually worked on it. You know, I took her, I did something with her that took her back to when she was that age, to begin to bring healing to herself at that age. You know, I will have the video on my YouTube, so you can go back and watch it. Some people could not watch it because they said the sound was low. But you see, there was a process. We had to go back. We had to sit back and say, okay, you need to heal that child. You need to help that child feel protected, to release you into adulthood. Just like that woman that was angry with her mother at the age of 9 or 10. She needed to go back and release that anger, forgive her mother, let go, in order to be free in her 60s of anger. You know, the woman that the family that, you know, they were divorcing, the woman was angry with her mother for divorcing. And because she was angry with her mother for divorcing, she ended up replicating the same pattern, because she never dealt with that anger. She never dealt with that pain. The pain that we do not deal with never goes away. We are never free. That is why, Jesus says that bring your pain to my feet at the cross, because every pain, everything you carry that you don't deal with, you know, becomes an hindrance, not to the person. It's so funny. You think that it should be an hindrance to the person that you have not forgiven, or the person that you are angry with. It is actually also an hindrance to you, to your progress, because the way we were formed, we were created so not to be able to entertain negativity. Our vessels is not supposed to entertain negativity. Begins to affect our health, and we become susceptible. Our immune system, like the third scenario, our immune system actually begins to break down as a result of negativity, and we become exposed to all kinds of sickness. There was a study that a man that is married, that is in a home where there's a lot of criticism and, just nastiness, or a woman, that they are more prone to respiratory diseases. They have cold and malaria and all of that, more often. And so all these things we are carrying, anger, the upset, I will never let this person go in my heart. This person has hurt me so much. It's actually affecting our progress, our own progress, and our own future. And so I want to open us up now to say, please, nobody is free of end journeys. I mean, just like I shared with you, I had journeys, I had pains, I had disappointments. There were things that, you know, I didn't even think was affecting me so much until I went into counseling. And I realized that, my goodness, this thing, I didn't think it was there. And so I want to encourage people, if you notice you have any iota of thought that your journeys, you know, is affecting your today, please seek counseling. We are going to be running a group called Emotional Detox Group. If you would like to join if you would like to go through an emotional detox, it's an 8 weeks group. It's going to be taken by myself and Paulett. If you would like to be part of the emotional detox group, it's going to be a group of maximum of about 8 people in one slot. We are going to have it online, and if there are people on site in US that want to do it also. So if you are interested in taking part in the emotional detox group, please, there's going to be a link that is going to be placed. Yes, the link has been placed, emotional detox group form. Go to that link, fill the form. We will reach back out to you and tell you more, give you more information on how to join. So if you are interested in joining, it's 8 weeks. You feel that there are things that you really need to work out. You need to be part of this group. Please check the link, fill the form, and myself and Paulett will be running this group for 8 weeks.